Hi, my name is William Michael Forbes, and you may have watched the last video of my channeling Jesus, Ascended Master Jesus, on healing and why he chose healing as a modality. And my wife and I were talking about that channeling earlier this evening, and she brought up a good point to me. There's something I'd completely forgotten, because one of the things that happens when I'm channeling is I know things are being said and spoken, and I'm very conscious of that when it's happening, but I don't have conscious recall of everything that's said unless something triggers it. So she mentioned that Jesus had said that humanity was not imprisoned, that there were no leaders or elites. Is that correct?
Yes, that we think that we are being controlled by, and therefore we don't have power, but we do have power.
So when she brought that to my awareness again, one of the things that came into me from there was they wanted to talk, and I say they, I mean Archangel Michael, Ascended Master Jesus, and Metatron are the three that are here right now that wish to discuss this concept of you are not imprisoned. They're saying you are not imprisoned, and so they want to discuss that in a small amount with you right now. They're not going to speak any particular order. They have no desire to necessarily announce who is speaking at any time, but they do wish to communicate the truth of the ideas for you to comprehend and recognize that you are not imprisoned by any elitist organizations or any government system or tax system, but you have an illusion of that. Okay, so that's where they want to begin, with the idea that you are not entrapped or imprisoned by any system, period. The way to know this is that you have the freedom to think. They said every single human being on this planet has the freedom to think their own thoughts. The trick is learning how to turn yourself inward to change the thoughts you're thinking, so that you learn to remember that you can change your thoughts, and therefore you are not your thoughts. You can think your own thoughts. You are heavily bombarded, and they're saying heavily bombarded, like constant bombardment by other people's ideas of what thoughts are, what you should believe or shouldn't believe. And it is that bombardment that has taken your attention away from what it is you need to put your attention on in order to know that you are free. To really get to a place of true freedom, you must, and they're saying this in unison, you must know how to think your own thoughts at will, anytime, anywhere. And they're saying this very adamantly. It's almost like I'm being pushed from behind. You must be very adamant in your recognition that you can choose your own thoughts. Now, Master Jesus is saying specifically, I came here to show you you are free to choose. I came here to show you you are free to choose, that I was not here to choose for you, but that you had the own power within you, the same power I have within me, you have within you, to choose and enact creation. Enacting creation is choosing your own ideas and carrying them out. And healing is but one way of doing that. And I was very focused on results that I wanted. And the people that I healed were very focused on the results they wanted. So we met at the same place, and our energies created the result. Your statement of two or more are gathered is a harmonizing of ideas and energy to produce a specific result.
I have a question. So what if I think that I think my own thoughts? How do I know if I'm not thinking my own thoughts? I think for myself. I think most people do. But yet they're being led. How do we know the difference?
You know the difference if you are truly thinking your own thoughts, because there will be no fear if they are your own thoughts. Your own thoughts are your own thoughts. They'll be thoughts that are conducive to who you are, to what your body needs, to what your life needs. They will not be anything contrary to what you need. So any thoughts or ideas that you have that are contrary to what you need are not your thoughts. They are thoughts that have been given to you.
That's an interesting word you use, contrary, because I often find that my thoughts are contrary to other people, but not to me. They're very much conducive to me, but to other people, they're unusual and at times contrary.
But would you say that your thoughts that are contrary to other people would harm other people?
No.
Then your thoughts are in support of you.
They may harm their vision of what they believe to be true, but it would not intentionally harm. It would actually help them if they were open to it.
So essentially what you are saying is that you think thoughts independent of what other people might think about those thoughts, and carry out those thoughts, and others may disagree with them?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So you are thinking your own thoughts that are contrary to other people's ideas, but they would not harm you, and they would not harm the thoughts that you think.
That's correct.
So any thoughts that you think that would not harm you or another are not in a contrary form to that which is good for life. So we can add to this idea now by saying that any thoughts that will enhance the quality of your life or the life of others is a good thought, even if others might perceive it as contrary. Because if a thought is to harm, there will be an immediate response in the body. If a thought is a harmful thought, if the thought is a harmful thought, it will be felt in your body as uncomfortable. Whether that thought originates in your own mind or has originated from somebody else's mind and been placed in yours, a thought that is uncomfortable is a thought that is not conducive to the life that is within you, and will ultimately not be conducive to the life that is around you. And you may remain in denial or unconscious, some will say, of thoughts that are contrary to yourself and others, such as with addictions. Those thoughts remain contrary to you, but you're not conscious, and you accept them as if they're okay, but they do you harm. But those thoughts did not originally originate with you. So having ultimate control over your thoughts is the first key to recognizing and enforcing your own freedom in this plane of consciousness that you exist in now.
Is there a pill that we can take that will allow us to think our own thoughts? I'm joking. What is the tool we could use to help us?
The most important tool is to learn to still your mind, to learn to quiet this thing between your ears, in your skull, this thought mechanism. Get it still. You can get it still through breathing. You can take a meditation. You can take a walk, but learn to still it and ask yourself when thoughts come up, did I choose this thought? Is this thought good for me? Then you become your own doctor, your own mind doctor. Because if you know that a thought is not bad, you can say no to it. So the only pill you can take is a thought pill, or you might say a no thought pill. In other words, to not think, unless you're consciously choosing a thought to think. And then knowing that the thought you're consciously choosing to think is going to be beneficial for you.
Okay, so you are saying that we are to still our minds and to not think. However, we're speaking of thinking and thoughts. How does that correlate and make sense?
The question I think you're asking is, if I choose to have no thoughts, why? The truth about thoughts is all thoughts that you think are a creative force, an energy, whether those thoughts are your own that you've acquired or created or developed, or you've assembled or acquired them from others. All thoughts are creative energies. So to still your mind, the next step then to a quiet mind is to begin to choose your thoughts. To choose them very carefully, knowing that a thought will create an effect not only in your physiology, but in the world around you. In the time and space and the events and the people around you will be affected by the thought that is generating a feeling, an energy that goes out into the world. And we interact with all life on that level of thought. A thought forms. So it's important to know how to then choose your thoughts wisely and carefully. Most people don't do this, do you? How many times a day do you consciously say, I'm going to think this thought, or I'm not going to think this thought, or this thought is not good for me, or that thought is good for me? How often do you do that? Watch yourself. Watch yourself. Watch yourself.
So when we get ourselves to the point whereby we are able to choose our own thoughts and think our own thoughts, and as you had mentioned, two or more gather, and we're speaking about that we are in control. No one has power over us. When we get ourselves to that place, what can we do? How can we alter our lives and the lives of others?
From a perspective of feeling, which is energy, which is generated from thought on this plane, in this physical plane, thought affects form. Ideas affect thought. Ideas either come from within you or from around you, from your external experience or your internal reality. To know this, you move yourself in a position of generating energies that become stronger with time. So if your focus is love, your focus is joy, your focus is bliss, your focus is peace, and the movements you make and the gestures you do and the actions you take are filled with the energy of those things, you will influence people and time and animals and space around you. Whereas if your thoughts are of pain and suffering, your energy will influence and affect people likewise in a negative fashion. So you have an immediate impact on the environment. If you're just beginning in the process of stepping out of your prison of thought and creating a new thought world that you will exist in, well, it will take a bit of time for you to start to feel something different. But you will cross a threshold where you'll start to feel your thoughts affecting you consciously and deliberately, and the world around you will begin to reflect that gradually as you increase the habitual play of that, the carrying out of those thoughts. This is very important. Until you can run your thoughts, you cannot heal your body, you cannot heal your mind, you can help no one if you can help not change your own thoughts. You must know how to change these. You must become the master of these. It did not happen overnight, even for me or my brothers and sisters, to master this. It took a long time, very focused training. But you are living in an accelerated time where there is far more energy on the planet than even in the days where I walked this earth many hundreds of years ago. The energy of humanity is so vast that it is impacting the environment, indeed impacting the sun, and impacting the waters and the air in profound ways, both positively and negatively. Unfortunately, from what we're observing, more negatively. But this does not mean that this cannot be changed, because you can be walking in one direction and change your mind and turn around and go in the other direction. And humanity is at that place. We're walking in one direction, and you need to change directions. And that is done here first, and feeling second, and then this begins to change. So I invite you to learn to still your mind, to begin to question if you're choosing these thoughts, or are these thoughts been chosen for you. There is no one outside of you that sits in your mind but you. And until you realize that, you will be thinking that something outside of you is controlling you and manipulating you. But those that you think are controlling and manipulating you are those that have learned to run their own thoughts, and they therefore create their own experiences and are in charge of the creative process of their own lives. Whereas you may not be, but you have that option any time of space. You may do this. This is good. This is a good place to end, I think. Anybody else? Metatron wants to say just one thing. There is a mathematics. He's saying there is a mathematics behind energy that is well known to a few, and that there is a way to measure the amount of emotional energy with the existing technology on this planet today, the emotional energy of the human collective consciousness. That there are mechanisms that can transform that energy, but these particular mechanisms have not been properly or adequately developed, and would only result in the temporary delay of the effects of these negative emotional energies, which are a product of the collective consciousness of the human race. He's saying, I highly recommend that you find ways of empowering your fellow citizens to run their own minds, to think their own thoughts, to formulate ideas that are conducive to their own bodies and to their own minds and to those around them, to remove hatred and anger from the emotional equation, the thought world. And in this way you'll begin to reduce down the negative emotional energy that is ultimately going to create an unfortunate change on the planet if that energy is unable to be reduced significantly in a short time frame. That is all for me. Well, we're going to say thank you for joining us. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments box. Feel free to subscribe and share this video with anybody you know. They're saying thank you for taking this time. We wish that you will apply what we suggested today and know that you are not a prisoner to any man or any system of man on this planet. For nothing can come and harm you unless you believe that is so. On that note, again, thank you for joining us. And like I said, I'm fairly new to all this. And if you got any questions, please write them down and I'll come back on. It seems that these guys come whenever I'm going to sit down and do this, they show up. And we're also putting a course together in February, March. There's 2 courses. I actually started doing this just a couple months ago. And there's a course called Mediumship 101, which is a basic course on how to actually begin to tap into other beings, other dimensions of consciousness. And there's a one that follows that called Mediumship 102. And you can go to a website, a Facebook page called Intuitive Angel Messages to learn more about Mediumship Course 101 and communicate with a woman named Kristen Davies there. Or you can look up her YouTube channel on YouTube. And I'll be one of the mediums that will be helping to train people to develop the skills necessary to actually learn how to do this. And it's very fascinating, I gotta say. It can happen the most amazing moments. You can get inspirations and ideas from these beings that will completely change your life, your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your relationships with the people you love, and the world around you. There's no greater opportunity than tapping the knowledge of an individual soul or spirit that is well more evolved than we are, that has been here and done this and knows the way that we do not. Yeah, so I'll look forward to seeing you in those courses perhaps, and please like and subscribe to the channel. Take good care. God bless you.